Good morning, everyone. I'm Adya Faldu, a student of BCom International Finance at the Department of Professional Studies, Christ University. I'm a Public Relations Associate at Cognito 2021. The panel of interviewees we have with us today are Mr. Abhijit Ray and Mr. Amit Kumar Rathi. Abhijit Sir is the co-founder and managing director at United Capital Inclusive Credit. Has nearly 20 years of diverse experience in development finance, commercial banking, and microfinance. And at Unitas Capital, he has been instrumental in the growth of the firm's business, especially in the microfinance sector. Amit Sir is the managing director at Unitas Capital, and Sir, having an extensive and diverse background in the PE VC industry as well as M&As, has diligently taken upon myriad roles, be it as an investor, auditor, or a diligence advisor. Firstly, thank you so much for joining us today here at Cognito Talks. We at the Department of Professional Studies, Christ University, have always tried to inculcate learning and development in a holistic manner. The objective of this interaction will be to learn about your experiences in the venture capital industry and impact investing arena, and how we as students can learn from your awe-inspiring journey as we step into the professional world. Now, keeping this objective in mind, we have structured this discussion in four parts. We will begin by asking you about your educational background and learning, then about the dynamic world of VC investing. Next, we shall proceed to know more about Unitas Capital and impact investing. We shall then conclude by requesting you to enlighten us, students, about the skill sets we can cultivate as we enter these industries. The moderators for today are Gokul Prajeet, Sathwik Babu, and I, Adya Faldu. Gokul is a financial analyst at IGA Tech and is also an ACC affiliate. He was the head of Cognito Aviation 2019 and a part of the BBA F&A batch of 2020. Sathwik is currently working as the deal discovery intern at Succeed Ventures and as a student associate at Christ Consulting. He studied BCom International Finance at DPS Christ University. So, sir, to begin this interview, I would first like to ask this question to Abhijit, sir. Abhijit, sir, you had a diverse professional education, having studied economics, banking and finance, microfinance, as well as strategic leadership from extremely reputed universities. What was your journey throughout, and how did they equip you with the learning you required in your professional career?
No, thank you, Adya, and thank you, Christ University, for this opportunity to talk to you. It's a privilege and honor always when you speak to budding, professionals like you all who have lot tons of energy to make a difference in the world, right? And that's what actually make people successful. The idea, the questions you have asked, quite a few to start with. I think, first of all, my background is a very simple background. I don't have any professional degree whatsoever, which means, or which probably proves to some extent that, professional degrees are important to make your technical skills strong. But at the same time, it is all about hard work and passion of building a, institution. And Touchwood, it's also about an amazing team. So from day one, I've been lucky. I would say I'm one of the luckiest, coming from a very humble background, wherein we had to struggle for every daily things in life. What we realize is hard work is the only capital one has, and how to build on that hard work. So first and foremost was to crack a State Bank of India job. So I started with State Bank of India as a probationer way back in 1993. Obviously, you can think of it. I'm old, pretty now, about 50 plus. So the journey of 28 years of banking has been very interesting. From State Bank, wherein I was posted in an amazing place called Kashmir. They call it the paradise on earth, right? From a beautiful Kashmir, started my career, but it was peak of militancy 1993, when we had to crawl, hide behind pillars to save ourselves from the bullets. It was an interesting journey, but never. It only made me stronger, made me, much more, I would say, comfortable, confident, and saying, yes, if I can survive here and do, and it's all about the intent, so we can survive anywhere. So started that journey, and then after some time moved to SIDBI, Small Industries Development Bank, and that gave me an amazing platform to work across India, starting from a small place like Bhubaneswar. I worked in Calcutta, went to Sikkim, then to Lucknow, Hyderabad. But not only these places. In a span of 12 years, I worked in 5 cities. But what it offered me is a travel across the country from Kanyakumari to Leh Ladakh to extreme northeast to the west, and I traveled more than 400 cities of India just to do development finance. So it's all the learning that made I would say made me a bit more bold. I would say, because coming from a very simple middle class background, I was having a very good job, which is in Sydney, pensions, everything guaranteed, and decided to jump into entrepreneurship. Probably a lot of people like Amit and others, you all would have seen on the journey, so which inspired me to probably do that. So, started Unitas Capital along with Eric, my fellow co-founder, in 2007. Actually, we said, we sown the seeds then, and it took us a year to raise our capital and all. We to raise about $5 million. And Eric was undergoing his program in Harvard. He calls it a midlife crisis program in Harvard Kennedy School on Public Policy. And I was already in India, so we had Eric, I, and a couple of others. We started Unitas Capital, and it was nothing but the sheer passion of working on the impact space. If you ask me, Eric has been a mainline, investment banker all his life. 14 years of his investment banking in, Citi, Sullivan Brothers, Smith Barney. And then, when he came to India, he was very clear that he has to work on the grassroots. He has to work with impactful businesses. He had no background of impact, and I had some background of impact. But together, we are there to build a company. And touch wood, building a company, I would say, is much easier a process when you have amazing, managers like Amit to be there. So Amit came on board pretty early. He was within the first 2 or 3rd year, I think Amit came on board. So having a team is the most important part. So what is the learning out of all this is, you need to know as a manager that you have good people with you, right? You need to know as a leader that you have. Hello, am I there?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, sorry. But the screen went off. Sorry. Okay. So I think as a founder, as a leader, you have to always ensure that you have a great team which you build on, right? And the team actually teaches you a lot. And I'm telling you, I don't even know 5% of what Amit Rathi knows. So it's all I learn every day from people like them. This is what makes a team great, because if you hire the right person, I think we're lucky to get Amit. Likewise, we're lucky to get many other people. But so it's very important as a founder, as a leader, that you identify the right people with you to grow. And touch wood, that has helped us. So that's how Unitas Capital has become our #1 investment bank. In a very short span of time of 5-6 years, we became #1. It's not easy, not in Bombay circle, we are in Bangalore. Being in Bangalore, being the #1, rubbing shoulders with the biggies like Avenders, and KKRs and whatnot. It is not easy. So I think hats off to all the hard work done by the entire team. It's very important. A few things I'll highlight before I take the next question, or if I've missed something, please tell me. It's very important that when you're building an institution, you have to build a culture. And culture is about working together. Culture is about the commitment and passion for the job you have. Culture is about feeling that we are all equals. The moment you start feeling that you are the boss, the moment you start thinking that you can only direct and not do work, moment you have all those, I would say, heavier stuff on your head, I think the problem, or maybe to building a greater institution, becomes difficult. So we focus a lot on our culture. Our interview process has been one of the most talked about and criticized, but at the same time that has helped us to hire the right people, because we take a lot of time to interview people. And we are very particular about a culture, that we should have a very friendly culture. We have built the best of elements in terms of saying that it's equal opportunity employer. We'll be very focused on gender. We have everything set up in a way wherein we ensure that we give every sort of, whether from a color, creed, caste, religion, everyone gets an equal opportunity. So there are certain basic principles we have built in. And there is also an element that anybody comes to our institution, whether he's coming as a MD or coming as an analyst, every layer of the organization talks to him or her. Idea is that it is all about knowing each other better. It's not just the interview process. What I call, and Amit agrees with me in most of these cases, is that you need to know the jokers you have to work with. That's what I always say. Means you need to know the people you have to work with, because you say you like Amit is handsome young man, and if you see him, you like him. Wow, Amit is very good in behavior. You get hired, you come in and join, but you realize there are Abhijits who are tougher guys to deal with. The other people who are not as nice as Amit. Then what happens? So I think you are not doing the right selection process. I think it's also a selection. As much as we select the candidate selects us, and that's why we made the process very, very democratic. And I'm telling you, it's very unusual, but even Amit Rathi, as the head of investment bank, cannot decide which candidate will join until unless the team gives a. None of us, neither Eric nor me nor Amit, can have a veto on any candidate. It's the team, and the team means if analysts have an objection, yes, they have an objection. We will have to take it into account. This has happened because of the culture we have built. This has happened because we've empowered people. This has happened because people take responsibilities. The recruitment will take responsibility. Every team takes responsibility. So I think it's one of the things we have learned, sometimes also hard way, that we delegate, we give responsibility to team members, so they become become owners of the project, owners of the work, owners of the task. That has, I would say, helped us a lot. And you wouldn't believe, in the last 13 years of journey, this is the first time we have given an advertisement for an HR head. For us, HR is all of us, you know. So HR head is not a third person. HR is all of us. So we have to each participate in building the company. Now that company has certain size, we're now going into an HR process. So I'll stop at that. Rather take any questions that you have, or maybe ask Amit to compliment wherever he wants to.
So we have actually a question on the team and the HR process itself. So that's why we have a separate question altogether. So Adya will go ahead with.
So, but thank you so much for telling us about the importance of team building. And you said that hard work is the most important capital that one has, and I think that's something we'll remember throughout. So, thank you so much for sharing your experience, sir. Amit, sir, you have various multifaceted degrees like chartered accountancy and certified public accountant to your name. What kind of learning have they given you, which have facilitated you to look at the VC industry differently?
So hi, can you hear me? I'm assuming am I audible?
Yes, sir, you're audible.
So I think your question was what kind of learning from a VC perspective, right? I mean,
yes.
So he started the career and there got interested in VC. The key thing about this was that when you in our day-to-day work, which we do, we look across multiple companies, across sectors, across stages, and across various complexity levels, across various scales. So those create an adrenaline rush, so to say, that your vigor to the way they say that it creates a motivation to come to office because you know you're going to learn new things. Like on an average, I see, and me and Abhijit see, probably Abhijit more, but we see about 5 to 6 new businesses closely every week. So that means it's an understanding about the new sector, how do they operate. So if you ask me, that's the key thing which drives us going there. The whole learning which never stops. You get to keep learning about new models. You get to keep learning about new improvisations. So that's something which definitely keeps you going and keeps the adrenal rush. I mean, it's frankly me and Abhijit's passion that we like this. Some people prefer a much more stable or much more a different route, which is absolutely okay. But then, for me at least, the whole idea of VC is that when you're talking to companies to raise capital for them, it the whole idea of understanding each and every promoter's our viewpoint, seeing how what are they coming from, where how did they see the problem statement, and how are they attacking it is something which is very interesting.
Actually, Adya, I would add to what Amit said. Very interesting. See, what keeps you going? What is the kick you get at the end of the day? Right? Now, I'll give an example, Amit here. For him, it doesn't matter what time of the day or night. If he has to get it done, he just get it done, right? So what does it mean? There's a passion to do. There is a passion to make a difference. There's a passion to build something. It's not just money. I'm telling you, money can only be enabler up to a certain point. But it's also about the passion to do things, and that's what actually makes a difference. Because see, if you are passionate about something you want to do, if you are very passionate about to learn and build yourself, if you are passionate to contribute, I mean, work will become a pleasure and not a burden. So I think one of the things which we have learned over the years, and because Amit is also like that, most of us are like that, is that we never ever shirk work. So it doesn't matter. In our organization, we don't have a lot of support staff. So at that time, Samit and I did xeroxing also of papers because that was important at point to deliver, right? So nobody bothered about what is the work. I'm not saying that we should do, but I'm saying that you never shirk away from any work because that's the requirement of the moment. It doesn't matter what it. So other thing is you being very simple. Never ever anything, even the most learned man in the world, be simple, be nice, and that's also pays off because you're learning, nobody can take from you. There is no reason to be arrogant. There is no reason to think that I know everything, I am the boss. Correct. Because there are people definitely who know much more than you, and it's better to respect your knowledge within yourself, saying yes, I know what I know, but being humble about it, because people remember you for the advice you give, people remember you for the work you do, people don't remember that you are just knowledgeable and don't do anything, right? So I think that's also very important attitude to understand when you are in the early stage of your career, that you may be the nerd, doesn't matter, but you have to deliver at the end of the day, right? So attitude is very important along with being a nerd also. So I'm saying that attitude is rather much more important than being a nerd. The world of finance is very simple. Very simple. It's not complicated. We don't do research. We don't do space research. It's very simple. You have to work on Excel model. You have to be a bit more intuitive at times. You may be a bit more creative at times to do what like Amit does. A lot of creativity brings to the job. But then it is a simple, I would say, common sense that you need to do a job. It's a commitment. It's hardworking and a common sense to be applied. So better is to keep things simple, and I think we believe in keeping things simple, and probably feel that that's the way to do it. There are other mantras as well, no doubt, but this is something which has worked for Unitas Capital and the other institutions we are building.
Thanks a lot, sir.
I would.
Hello.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yes, sir. So now my question is, I mean, you spoke about the financial industry and you just made that statement saying that finance is not difficult. So a lot of students who are here, a major portion of today's audience consists of university level students who are about to, launch their careers. So we see the venture capital industry itself is a glamorous world. So it would be great if you could please introduce us all to this cosmos of the venture capital industry.
Good word, glamorous word. Amit will take most of it because he is a master of this industry. I'll just say a very few things. Okay. Glamorous in what sense? Correct. That has to be understood. Yes, glamorous. It gives a good pay packet. Answer is yes. Sometimes you work with the amazingly good global industries. Answer is yes. But at the same time, there is a lot of toil and hard work behind it. Correct. So I was my second employee in Unitas Capital was a gentleman called Govind Shivkumar, and Amit, mentored him a lot in the later years. So Govind Shivkumar used to tell me that he was a city analyst, and he used to tell me there was no night, there was no day. There was only PPTs and only Excels, and most of it he became a PPT vending machine. So what does it mean? I'm not saying that you don't apply your brains or anything else. So Eric told me, Eric in his first 12 years of life, he hardly took vacations. Okay, because he used to reach office around 9 to say 11, somewhere in between, depending on what time he came back home, and return home between 1 in the night to maybe 3 in the night, and this continued for years and years together. So it looks glamorous. Yes, it looks glamorous. It takes a toll, tremendous toll, because it pushes you in the corporate ladder very fast. Absolutely, it pushes you very fast. Like in a normal company, whether it's a manufacturing or other, to reach a director level itself will take you 20-25 years. Whereas in a investment banking or a private equity world, you become a director if you are good, you will be director in like what, 10 years max. So the corporate ladder to go up in investment banking is high, and it comes with a cost. The cost is hardworking. The cost is continuous learning. The cost is tremendous amount of research and completely being updated. So there is always a balance between that. Yes, it's a glamorous. Yes, it teaches you a lot of things very early. Yes, you get a lot of learnings as well, right? But at the same time, you have to be prepared that it is the next 10 years of your life would be a very hard time, and that is what we call it as the word in Hindi is completely ghisna, which means that you are being chiseled and chiseled every day, right? Chiseled to perfection. But I'm not scaring you. I'm saying that's what. See, the aspirations of people have changed. Earlier in our generation, we used to think we'll work for 35, 40 years. That's how we used to think, and that's how we made our career. But today, young generation doesn't want to work more than 15 or 20 or 20, max 20 years. Because after that, they want to have their life pretty, well settled and all. So if that be the case, obviously the first 10 years has to be very hard. Correct. So one has to design it himself or herself accordingly. And there's nothing wrong in it. It's all your choices. Some people are still happy to have, like you have seen Madhusudan, I am Bangalore guy, set up a massive, organic farm in Mandya. And you would see his LinkedIn updates every other day. Amazing work he's doing with farmers. He has done corporate world a lot, but he's happy with that. So it's a question of what will be happy in, right? So first of all, decide that yes, are you want to earn well, you want to be an investment banker or a private equity guy. So we focus on that. But if but you will be very clear that the next 10 years would be, at least the next 10 years would be a tough year for you. See, and this industry is like this, it will continue. If I say first 10 years, don't think you will be saved after 10 years. Then you will not work as an analyst, but you will be working as a manager. You'll be working as a MD or whatever. Like what Amit Rathi does today is very interesting. He will be doing like 5 days, out of 5 days, 3 weeks, he'll be on the 3 days on the road, and then 2 days in office. So in the road, he can't say, I'll not see the mails. He has to see, respond, everything. So the timing doesn't change. It's only the nature of work changes. But the long hours still continue. So yes, glamorous world, you should try because there's a lot of learning. And as youngsters, you have the energy, you have the passion, you have the, what do you call, the juice in you to really push yourself, right? Sorry, Amit, it's your question. Probably I took it.
No, that's okay. Please, this is what I wanted to say. Yeah, Satvik, iBanking, VC industry does have a fair amount of glamour, but there comes a fair amount of responsibility as well. So, honestly, is the pay package good? Yes, pay package is very good. When I say good, I mean comparison to other industries. Yes, definitely. Second is, think of it, right? Imagine you're a you're an MBA or you're a college pass out. You end up speaking only to the CEOs of the company. The kind of learning which you get there is amazing. So vis-a-vis other companies where you're probably doing a sales or a marketing, or I mean, no offenses there, but then here you're speaking to the CEO, you're discussing the strategy, you're discussing which company should we invest in, which kind of investors should you look at, what are the terms. So all that adds to the glamour, and all that adds to the learning perspective. But then yes, it comes with its own cost. Honestly, if you're ready for a breakup and if you're looking for an excuse from a breakup from your girlfriend slash boyfriend, please join me. Uh, no, but jokes apart, it does take a lot of toll. It's a zero-sum game at the end of the day, Satvik. And one thing, as students, you need to understand that nothing comes for free in life, and there's no shortcut to success other than hard work. These might sound very gyan level things, but genuinely nothing comes for. There's no shortcut to success other than hard work. If you can always crib that, hey, my batchmate at Christ, he's doing so good, etc., etc. He was just an average guy. Uh, what's in him, etc., etc. But then, honestly, when you think back, when you do the root cause analysis, it would be his hard work, it would be his passion which he put in, which will take him places. So that's where it is. I mean, in our Abhijit alluded upon it in our travel, like we all. I mean, pre the COVID phase at least, we end up traveling 3 days in a week, 3 to 4 days in a week. So if you're up for it, yeah, why not? So that's where it is. The thing which the one thing which I wanted to, and Satvik probably at some point, and yes, we would discuss it, that when I speak to, and earlier I used to teach at Christ and all that, so when we used to speak to students, uh, the key question which comes from them is that there is one company which is job which I like, and there's a second company which is paying a lot more. So what should I take? And this is like a perennial debate which arises in the students that अरे ये company campus में is giving a 6.5 or 7 lakhs kind of number, while this other company job is good, location is good, but then they're paying half that. Uh, the answer frankly is, well, one will obviously have to weigh the options, what is right, what's wrong for them. But if you ask me, go with where the passion is. Money will come in. Money at some point of time will come in. But if you don't take up what you're really passionate about, it will hurt at the long run. And think of it, right? After 2 years, 3 years, or 4 years doing something which you don't like, then the switch to something which you like becomes fairly expensive, becomes fairly difficult. So if between a job which you like, between a job which you like money, while again the disclaimer is that yes, you should evaluate various options, various aspects, but everything remaining same. Choose the one which you like from a passion, and that drives and that equates multiple things which is required from a passion on the job perspective.
Right, sir. Thanks a lot to talk about the passion.
So I think I'll pick up an example from what Amit said. Satvik, I'll just give you a couple of examples what Amit talked about. See, we don't go to campuses. Yeah, Satvik, we don't go to campus. Don't believe we have never gone to any campus. But we have IITs, IIMs, ISBs, Harvards, people like those working for us. You know why? And they have left their salary, which were like at least double of ours, or at least 30%, 40% more than ours, and that came with a cut. You know why? The reason for why is that the glamorous world looks like the work will be amazing there. At the end of the day, you need to learn also, right? Many of these larger corporates are very structured. The option of learning is limited. You feel there will be a lot of learning, but at the end of the day, you'll be doing the same monotonous job. So I think that's what actually makes it slightly different. So I think that's what I was referring to, that you need to understand, or Amit was referring to, that you need to understand that what makes you to join an institution. I would say always choose the institution where there's a lot of innovation and learning, where you can do different things, right? That's the most important part.
Correct, sir. Thanks a
lot. Second, I'll give you another example also. We say the glamorous world, and I'll tell you, I don't know, you saw this movie called Dil Chahta Hai. I think that's where Hrithik Roshan took a call at the middle of a vacation. And I'll tell you, this is not a movie. Real thing is, Amit Rathi attended one of our colleagues' marriage, and the whole time in the marriage, during his attending, he was on an investor call. That's how life is in investment banking and private equity. I'm not joking. I mean, your vacations are not your vacations. Your time is all taken by clients and investors. And who can tell better than Amit? It has been happening to us time and again. I was almost thrown out of my house in my anniversary date because I was not able to attend to that. I was traveling on doing an investor pitch somewhere else. So those things are natural, and that's what happens in investment banking world or a private equity world, and you have to be ready with that.
From what you're saying, it looks like someone who's really passionate about this that really excels, and someone who's just coming for the money, not exactly meant for this field, right? You really have to be passionate and dedicated to reach somewhere in this field.
Absolutely.
From the stated, one question that I've always wondered is, VC is a field where you need to have constant liquidity.
Once again, Gokul, it's not clear if I'm not wrong.
Gokul, you are not very audible here. Can you repeat what you said?
Is it better now?
Yes, it's amazing.
Yeah, this is better, definitely better.
So I'm just going to switch off my video. I think there's a lag in the internet. So I just have one question, sir. From my understanding, VC is a field where you constantly need to maintain liquidity, and there is an enormous pressure to raise capital. So how do you deal with these challenges, and what suggestions do you have to the future entrepreneurs who are willing to get into this field, or future analysts who are working in this field?
So, Amit, you want to go first? Amit, you want to go first, or shall I?
Sorry, you go ahead. The question was, Google. The question is, as a VC, as an entrepreneur, what are the things which you should be prepared for, right? I mean, at a very high level.
Yes, sir. Essentially, like, how do you maintain a liquidity? How do you raise capital constantly? And how do you overcome the stress and the challenges that is completely coming to you throughout your working time?
Amit, I'll start with one statement, then you could pick it up. So tell
No,
me,
let me
Gokul,
take that. So Google,
yeah,
sure.
go ahead, Amit. Go ahead, Amit.
Okay. So Google, when you talk about a VC and when you talk about starting up something, the first thing which you think which you require is you require a technology. I mean, there has to be an idea, right? I mean, you have to do it. Second thing you require is you require funding, and you get that, and there has to be a general market, and you'll get your VC up. Contrary to that, these problems of technology funding, they are actually much, much easier problems to solve in the scheme of things. The more difficult ones are: A, are you emotionally there? A. B, do you have a family support? And C, do you have a team which will execute it? I mean, it might again sound like a gyan, but again, these three are rather much more initial ingredient for you to solve it. Think of it, right? Imagine if I have a VC, I have a startup company, and think of it like, imagine if I have a debate between paying my daughter's education fees or putting that money into my company. What would I choose? A very important part which Abhijit and me spend when we evaluate clients whom we should take up is that, are you mentally there? When you take on a VC, life is not as easy. I mean, when you've taken money, yes, if the project doesn't go well, fair. But then there is always a moral obligation that you've got to work hard, grow the company, return the money back, or give the person an exit at a massive valuations. And when I say massive valuation, real massive valuations. So that is a fair amount of responsibility which comes on you. So Google, Safi, think of it, right? Imagine if you are starting a company and there are 15 people which you've hired. All the 15 people are dependent on you, that if you don't pay them salaries, their mother cannot be treated, their sister's marriage will not happen, their daughter cannot get educated. Do you realize that that's a responsibility which you carry, which you should be able to live with, execute it, and grow? So it's actually your family support, your emotional mindset, and your team, and these are the three things which make a difference. The other part, once you've got these right, the other parts are of course important, follow on, but they just come through, they will come through. But many of the companies which fail, yes, one can always say that they failed because this market was not good, this market was competition came in, etc. But if you dig down, inherently they fail because they probably did not get any of these three right.
That's
What
very
about that?
eye-opening.
I think Amit has put it right, Gokul. I'll add a few very, very simple points to it. I mean, Amit has said absolutely bang on every point. I'll put simple things like, think of it. I'll give again an example. I have a friend who is a IIT IM. So one day, after 15 years of his job, we were chatting, and I asked him, "Hey, what do you think was your toughest part of your life?" He's also an entrepreneur, by the way. So he said, "My 2 years in IM." He said, "I would like to forget those 2 years." Now, what I'm coming to is, I'll tell you. That means that everything you do, there's a challenge. Like today, you are studying to be one of the toppers in the class. You are studying to get a best job. Are you not really putting all your resources together to make it happen, right? Whether it is a number of hours, whether you are taking the external environments inputs, whether it is guidance from people like Amit Rathi or somebody else, you are doing it, right? So entrepreneurship is a combination. I mean, you are no different actually, if you put it. Like the way you are making your life successful by way of studying hard and trying to get a good job, entrepreneurship is all same. You are planning an idea, And to execute it, you have to put all the resources properly, which is about you have to have the right number of hours to study. It is not about just studying and mugging up. You have to have, studying it properly. You have to think that if you don't know mathematics well, you have to take help of a tutor to make your mathematics better. You have to think of it, how to structure the questions, answers to write it, so that you know that if you put in an example, give an example and write, you get a better number. So I think you strategize and do whatever is best for you, whether it's engineering test or anything else. Similarly, entrepreneurship is saying you are trying to build an option of not having a failure. Now, then the next question comes: how will you ensure that you are not being a failure? Amit said all the elements. Few things to highlight is, as Amit said, you should trust your own instinct, say yes, I can do it. And second is that you are fully invested, both emotionally, physically, psychologically, and financially into it. Means you have committed your resources well. Not only that, you know that you have limited, if you know that you have limited resources, if you are not from a Billas or XYZs, you know that you have limited resources, then there are people like, which we call it friends, family, friends, and fools. Why you say fools means somebody who backs you. You should have those people with you, that that if there are certain, so you build a cushion actually, that if say I don't get a VC funding for 1 year or 2 years, how do I survive? So build those contingency planning, right? And then move ahead. So if you are very clear in your thoughts, if you know that this idea is going to click because there is a demand in the market, either you have done a demand analysis looking at what is the total market, what will you deliver, or you think like Steve Jobs to say people don't know what they need, I'm giving something what they've never seen. So that you go that extreme. Either you assess the demand and say that you can play there and be very clear on how will you deliver. Do the competitive analysis very well, do all the homework to say, yes, this is the reason I'll be successful. And do bounce up. You need to have mentors. Always remember that go into entrepreneurship, you are the first time entrepreneur, you must have a mentor, must have a sounding board, must have somebody who can guide you a bit in terms of difficult times. So keep that in mind. Don't think that you know everything. It is not possible, humanly possible. So it's better to have that. And then you go with a very clear intent that there is no scope for failure. As like you have to get a job today, if you are thinking that way, same thing there. There's no option. You have to get a job. You have to make this work. And then things will fall in place. But yes, remember that alone you cannot do everything. You need to have a team, which I said in the beginning. If you want to build a good company, you need to have a team. You can be good at operations, you could be good at finance, you could be good at production, you could be good at process and system, you could be good at technology. But you cannot be a master of all the trades. You need people who will help you on multiple other areas. So keep that in mind. You need a solid team. And investor backs team, not just only one individual. They like to see a team.
So thank you so much. This is very insightful. The amount of knowledge we gain from this one question is amazing. Amit sir, I have a technical question for you now. Forbes has made an interesting statement. They've told over the next 3 years, the greatest wealth will take. So, how do you feel this will impact the impact investing industry, sir?
So, Gokul, sorry, couldn't hear you the question. Satvik, do you mind repeating it, please?
Yes, sir. So, Gogol's question was on the lines when Forbes said that the greatest wealth transfer will take place over the next 3 years. So, we want to ask, like, how do you feel this will impact the impact investing strategy you have, sir?
Okay, so yes, there is a fair amount of shift which you're seeing vis-a-vis impact investing world, where when I joined impact investing and Abhijit started, we were almost like said that, "Arey tum dan punya ka kaam karte ho. Do you really make? Are you looking to make money out of it?" The key is to find a business model. So every business model has two aspects, right? One is the volume and the price and the demand they generated. The key is to find an equilibrium where the price point makes so much sense that it is affordable to a large amount of people, and it still makes economic sense for the companies such that they can do it. Earlier, when companies used to think about it, they were like, okay, no, fine, I'll operate in my own niche, I'll operate in my own world, and so on and so forth. But if you look at over the period of time, you just cannot ignore the fact that you have to be able to attract volume. Yeah, you have to be able to attract large masses, in which case you need to change your business model such that you're able to get to attracting people where the masses are. Today, yes, for example, if you let's take a hotel. Yes, you have five-star hotels which attract people, but the same chain of five-star hotels also have budget hotels, because they know that they need to attract people. If Oyo was successful in its own right, it's only because they were able to provide good hotel facility to people. So fact of life is that yes, we feel that I mean, in some sense conflicted, but we feel that ignoring the aspect of impact, ignoring the aspect of not attracting large masses or bottom of the pyramid population is something which you can't, which you do shouldn't have an option anyways, or you wouldn't have an option anyways in some time. From the time when people used to think of impact as, oh yeah, this will be a one good thing also to say, now business models are built on how you will work with impact. Every company has an aspect along with it. Every investor has an aspect along with it. If you speak about, if you heard of word like SDG goals or ESG goals, the whole, when United Nations also speaking about it, the whole idea is that you have to have an inclusive nature. You can still have a very niche business that I will only cater. I will only be the Rolls Royce of of the world, where I will sell only to the rich and the rich of the world. But then, if you have to create real value, you have to be the Maruti of the world as well.
Thank you, sir. I mean, the
So, Satvik,
aspect
I
of
think, oh no, I'll add one more thing. Very interesting
sir,
point Amit
next,
said. So
yes,
I think I'll see what is happening. Earlier we were talking of industry, businesses and all. Nobody cared about the environment. Nobody cared about accessibility. Nobody cared about affordability. Why all these things came up? So there is a genesis to all this, that this is happening because the gap between haves and have-nots has only increased. So now this is the time to pay back. The next, 20 years is the payback time to say, hey, you have earned enough, you have done enough. But now you have to think of that you have to save this world. You have to save for the next generation, like for our kids, our grandkids, and their grandkids as well. So if you have to make this work, then you'll have to think of reach. You have to think of reach. How will you think of reach? You'll have to think of reach when it is you make reach accessible, you make reach affordable, right? And also you make reach in terms of a better and cleaner options, right? So I think this is what is all about sustainability. You do a development, but say at the end of the day you made a dam and the dam is destructing the entire area. That's not sustainable, right? Sustainability is the dam is built and people around the dam or replace has got another job, or people are benefiting out of that, correct? So sustainability about is taking the others also into the ambit and think about growth. So what Amit referred to is what we call is a program or an organization or an institution wherein the impact is by design and not by default. So this becomes the basis of how you build an institution, that by design you are trying to attract attend the problem. And I'll give you a simple example. Again, Amit Rathi right now is working on a very interesting company called Forus. Now the Forus is into ophthalmology devices, and they are targeting two, blindness, two grave things which are ultimately make people blind very soon. One is glaucoma, other is cataract. And it's only a mere test of the eyes that if it is detected, both glaucoma and cataract, if not treated, will lead to blindness. But if they are treated, and it can be treated only when it is detected. So if it is can be detected, so how do we ensure that it is detected? So this institution build a device which can do it without going to without sending doctors to the field. So I think by design, and it is a profitable entity, not that he's doing any charity or whatsoever. But what he has brought in is a device which can go to the last mile, where people can be tested, and the price point for that is less, right? So it ultimately is about a designing of a sustainable enterprises, and most of us are now going to a level that we'll have to build a sustainability design, looking at that whether we are making products affordable, products greener, and it has access. These three things will be much more deeper into businesses as we go forward for all type of corporations, not only for small entrepreneurs.
Thank you, sir. Thanks a lot for talking about impact by design and the sustainable development goals, the ESG. And I think this actually is something we all learn to now during, in DPS, Department of Professional Studies, we learn now. I believe it's because of pioneers like you who is making it inevitable to learn so that we get into the corporate world and understand about the sustainable development goals and ensure that it reaches the masses and accessible. So our next firm, Abhijit sir, is for you as being a co-founder and the MD of Unitas Capital Inclusive Credit. So I wanted to understand the reason and the outlook of this firm. I mean, is there any reason to bring out the financial inclusion part? And what about this creative and timely debt capital statement that has been made, sir? So if you could enlighten us about the same.
Sure, no, definitely. So see, what has been the learning in Unitas Capital over the 13 years we have been running this entity is that we worked with a lot of entrepreneurs. And what we realize is, one side we have to raise equity, but many of these entities also need debt. Why they need debt? The question is, if the product and services started generating a good amount of revenue, and operating level they are at a certain level of profitability, they can service debt. And why they can why they need a debt is because if they take a debt, their dilution is less, so promoters are happy about it. Investors also feel that if they put in so much of capital in the beginning, they're putting in more, and when they will exit they don't know. So rather, if there's a combination of debt and equity that happens, ultimately the institution can grow faster. And when you have a debt, what happens is sometimes it is also a mindset, and I'm not trying to point fingers here, but many of the entrepreneurs have it saying, okay, equity is coming in, there is no short-term cost to equity, so they are not as cautious with the equity money, right? When you have a borrowing, you know that you have to pay an interest every month, and you have to pay back the money. With equity money you don't pay back, that happens through exits, right? But debt money you have to pay back. So when there is a responsibility to earn something and pay back, and there's a regular payment to be made in terms of principal of the loan, the entrepreneurs are much more cost conscious. They become much more, I would say, vigilant in terms of every element of cost that happens, right? So it is always now investors are also now finding it better that they should have some borrowings in their investing companies at an early stage, because it also inculcates the habit of discipline of managing the cash. Because when you are borrowing, you are much more disciplined, right? So that's how made us to think that if these entrepreneurs need capital, no bank will give them. Why the banks will not give them funding? One, they don't have a track record. Two, they are not yet profitable. Three, most of these entrepreneurs are professionals who come from a professional experience, but they don't have collaterals to offer. What I mean by collateral, they cannot give 2-3 houses or a factory to offer, right, to the lenders. So most of the Indian lenders do a collateral based lending. So we decided that is not going to work in the startup ecosystem. So we should be much more flexible on the collateral side, but be much more open to see that is the business generates cash to pay us back or not, right? And accordingly, we designed our program saying that, okay, we'll give you a term loan or we'll give you a working capital based on your cycle of business. And this will help you to manage your cash flows better. So it's more on the cash flow based funding for SMEs and term loan based funding for non-SMEs, which are the financial inclusion companies. And you won't believe, the demand is tremendous. We have a pipeline which is inviable pipeline. We have too many cases. And touchwood, in just 2 years, we have disbursed more than 300 crores to about 63 odd companies. And if you think of in 200 crores with a small team, if you would have more capital, we could have disbursed more. With more manpower, we could have done more. So that's the level of demand I'm talking about. And I must tell you, the Indian venture capital industry is growing at a tremendous pace. Entrepreneurs, every other day you see hundreds of entrepreneurs coming up, all passionate about making a difference. And that's why we see that the flow is quite a lot. And every other day you are seeing new funds also coming up, which means there are a lot of venture capital people coming into the scene. That will help us to also grow this entrepreneurship network much deeper.
Good, sir. Thanks a lot, sir. I mean, this one sentence will always be there in my mind if I become an entrepreneur or even if I enter the world of VC. Entrepreneurs are not cautious about a short-term cost of equity. And I mean, this will be there in my mind as a man. And also, one more thing is about the design which you brought in, the synergy which you brought in with UC and UC Inclusive Credit, I believe is tremendous. And yes, Adya.
Yes, sir. So coming back to the venture capital industry, so this my question here is for Amit, sir. So you spoke about how hard work and there's no shortcut for success or for hard work, and I'm sure you would have faced a lot of challenges in your journey, both as a VC investor as well as a part of you, as a part of United Capital. So can you please elaborate on the same, and how did you keep yourself and your employees motivated throughout this whole process?
So it's frankly as a it's a tough process. You're saying, sorry, Adit, just to get the question right from the VC perspective and as a investment banker, how do you motivate your
Yes,
team,
sir.
right?
Yes.
Yeah. So you got to keep showing them the carrot and figure out new and creative ways of keeping showing them the carrot. But then the catch is that you're working with an extremely intelligent set of people. You can't act like, on a lighter note, the politicians who will promise you, oh, I'll give you the sun, moon, and the star, and get them to work. You have to be realistic, but again, the realistic answer is that you've got to make your goal their goal. You've got to come to arrive at what is the common goal and then aim for that. So if I was to motivate people, if I have a target of X million dollars of revenue, I would say that let's together decide what's the target which we aim to reach. Do we want to be x plus y, x plus z, or x minus a, where do we want to reach, and then make it a common goal. The moment it's a common goal, then everybody fights for it. Then and if you got your team right, if you got the culture right, and Abhijit spoke a lot about culture, if you got the team right, if you got the culture right, then I think that becomes a fair amount of fairly an easy task. But having said that, people management is the most crucial. I keep telling this that in your first 5 years of your career, or first 5 to 7 years of career, you are like the technical guy. You are absorbing new things. You are getting to learn new things. The next 5 to 7 years of your career, you are the sales guy. You're just selling things. And the next last part of the 5 to 7 years of your career or beyond, you're just a glorified HR guy. You're just managing people. You're managing people, you're motivating them, you're ensuring that they do what you can. In a largest organization, you manage people using good policies, good process. In a smallish organization like where me and Abhijit come from, you see how you can make bespoke motivational methods, that how can you talk to people, customize it, and see what appeals to each one. But at a high level, if you're able to make your goal the team's goal, and if you're able to align there, then a lot of problems get sorted there. For example, if Uber, if they don't make all the employees across the globe feel that we have to be the best solution for mobility, uh, then and if it is just there on the board's head, you cannot get it. It has to be there right at every level to that extent. So that's where I would put it as.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much for telling us that you need to be realistic and you need to make your goal their goal. And whenever you have a common goal, everyone has that synergy to work collectively towards it. So go ahead, sir.
So
Thank
think
you.
of it this way: when you're conducting this fest, the three of you are successful, you're motivated, you want to do this. Adya, you reached out to me and you followed up, etc., etc. But imagine if it's only three of you, and if the other team members care a damn about it, you think it would be a success? No, right? I
No.
mean, if the three of you, and I'm assuming one of three of you sat together and had Chak De moment ki, we will make this a success, and you got the team along. You said that let's do it together. We will show. I mean, just to take a dig, we'll show St. Joseph's that we can have a better fest than them, and that's only that's way it will happen.
Yes, sir. Definitely. So Abhijit sir and Amit sir, this one question is for both of you. As I told that majority of our audience is college students, university level grads who are about to enter their the corporate world. So I would be happy if you could give them a picture on what skills would be important to enter the world of finance, venture capital, or investment banking as such. So that will be really helpful for the student community as a whole.
Shall I start?
I think,
Go ahead.
yeah, go ahead, Amit.
Okay. Think of it, right, as a VC or as an investment bank. When you meet someone, and I tell this story on Prelude for a reason, Satvik, is that when we meet entrepreneurs, or when as a VC you meet entrepreneurs, you have 45 minutes to window to 1 hour window when you meet them. In that 1 hour, you need to decide whether is this a guy I'm going to bet on, is this a guy I'm going to bet my money on, or is this a guy I'm ready to put my resources on and raise capital. Of course, it requires your own knowledge of the industry, how you look at it, etc. But within, and obviously, when that guy is pitching to you, he'll tell you all the good things. He'll tell you, "Ye mera acha hai, this is good, this is going good," etc., etc. But then, in that 45 minutes to 1 hour, you need to make that call whether is he worth betting on or not. Which means, if he's telling you, "My sales is so much, my margins is so much, I started this business, I got so much of money from debt, so much of money from equity," you're immediately computing in your mind return on asset, which is generating. You're immediately computing in his mind return on equity, which is generating, and over a period of time, what is the sales growth he has generated. So, in short, Satvik, what you require is, when you're entering this industry and the finance, you require, of course, I'm like honesty, integrity, hard work. That's all given. But what you require is an extremely good bent of analytical mind. You're being able to see through what is not told, and that's very important. You have to be. It's like a chess game. You have to be 3 steps ahead of your counterparty. So for that, your analytical mind, your ability to think beyond it has to be extremely important. Some of the best team members which we hire are people who can tell you sheet 7 of this file, an Excel file, row or cell number A231 has this error. And within the 2 minutes, they should be able to speak about the strategy of a company at a broad level as to how they would do marketing. So that's the swing and that's the breadth of the knowledge. It's finance. Contrary to what people say when they teach you like a quantitative subject. Finance is an art. A same stock. Think of it, right, Satvik and Adya. If today Hindustan Unilever, somebody buys in the stock market at 1,000 rupees, somebody's selling it. Somebody is selling it because he thinks that 1,000 rupees will not go up. But somebody buying it thinks that 1,000 rupees will actually go up. Fact is, finance is an art, and you've got to figure out how to do that art. And for that, your tools are, you have to have a very keen analytical mindset. Sorry.
No, bang on. I think, Amit, you said it right. I think I can only add, because Amit is an expert in this, so obviously I can't say much more than what he said. But few things, as a youngsters, you should always keep in mind that go deeper. What Amit meant by that is analytical mind is you can only be analytical when you go deeper. And deeper means, today only we were looking at one number and it looked like very interesting. There was a difference between a financial cost ratio and an interest cost ratio, and it was not going as per the way it should. And our team, we put the team into action to figure out. 3 people came with 3 different analysis. Now there are could be multiple, and I could be blinded saying, no, I think this is the way. No, we are rather looking at all the analysis to understand why somebody is saying this. So am I missing something? So there is a learning out of every analysis. And no analysis is a dumb analysis. Please believe me. No analysis is a dumb analysis. Upfront, sometimes your bosses will tell you, hey, what is this? This is crap. But don't get deserted, because you are learning out of that crap, right? And until you do it yourself, you will not learn. Whatever way you do it, until you do it yourself, it is like dirtying your hands. So I think it's very important that you go deeper as much as possible. Don't work on the surface. That doesn't help you in long run. Go deeper, understand it, analyze it, put forth your views. You may be wrong. See, at a younger age, your depth of analysis could be slightly wrong, but you have taken the effort to do it is the most important part. That is what is going to be appreciated over a period of time, and that will help you to learn a lot. I think that's what Amit is referring to, and you should never shy away. You just do a quick job and not do a good deep job. So that's the difference. Now don't go for a quick job. Go for a deeper and analytical job where you are satisfied that you have done something, which is, I think of it that this is not what Amit Rathi asked you to do. This is what you are doing for you to give an output, not to for Amit Rathi to give an output. And that's when you will be happy that you have done the job.
Got it, sir. Thank you, sir. I believe we've taken much of your time already. So, firstly, personally, I would like to thank because this has been one of the best conversations I've had for 2 decades because I'm just 20 now. So, this has been a great conversation, and and at the same time, that inspiring journey you started off with, Abhijit sir, how you started off with which company and how from Kashmir to now when we spoke about the venture debt part wherein NBFC has a timely debt. I mean, all those were so inspiring, come informative and insightful. And thank you, Amit sir and Abhijit sir, like where you spoke about the hard work part, the technical aspect, the skills part. I think this will be a package of knowledge and insightful messages to all our students. Especially if I loved it, and I'm sure that each and every single person who is an finance enthusiast or a person who's entering the aspect will love it. So thank you for taking your time, sir. A huge thanks from Department of Professional Studies and the team Cognito.
No, thank you. It's a pleasure. It's really a pleasure to talk to you. Actually, you know what? Youngsters like you give me and Amit a lot of cake because you guys come with a lot of energy, lot of vibration, lot of questions, which pushes us back, pushes us a bit to help us to deliver. So I think we always get very, very charged up to talk to youngsters. And Amit knows, like, that's why when he asked me, Dada, would you like to do this? I said, any day. I mean, that's what we love, because if you can inspire two people, to come into this, think of it, you are only from one college and one batch. The impact, the multiplication factor is very high. And that's what we are looking at. I mean, more people in this phase, more better for all of us.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir. This has been really inspiring. We've learned a lot, I'm sure.
Have a good day.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you.
Pleasure.
Thank you.
Bye. Thanks, Adik. Bye-bye.
Hey, well done, guys.